Let's have a real conversation for a second. Prices are high, interest rates are higher, and most of us haven't really seen a huge pay increase in the last few years. So I'm willing to bet that some people are going to start cross-shopping the Yukon for the new Acadia because it's a lot bigger. I mean, a lot bigger. I borrowed these SUVs from Jerry Seiner, Buick GMC here in South Jordan, Utah. If you are in the market, be sure to ask for Frank. Let's go ahead and check out the pricing on these, and I'm going to take you guys around these SUVs to see just how much bigger the Acadia is compared to the Yukon. Starting with the Acadia, here is the base price, $54,300. Now this is a Denali. Now unfortunately it's just front wheel drive, so this price is kind of misleading, so just add $2,000 to that price if you gotta have all-wheel drive. Now this one has pretty much all the packages that you can get, like the Super Cruise, also the Denali Reserve package, which gives you a lot of nice features, and it has that expensive white paint. Destination is $1,395 with a total price of $63,310. Now, here are the fuel economy numbers just for reference. So 27 highway, 20 city, but keep in mind, if this was an all-wheel drive, it would probably go down like 2 on the highway. Here is the base price for the Yukon Denali, $79,805. Now this one has a lot of packages too, like the advanced technology package. You guys can see what comes in there. Rear seat media, premium capability package. Also, it's going to have the 22-inch wheels, sunroof, black paint was an extra cost, and then max trailering package. Total destination is $1,995 with a total price of $93,210. And here is the fuel economy numbers. I may do a fuel economy run in the future, so be sure to subscribe to the channel. I don't know if I'm going to use this one because it's front wheel drive versus full wheel drive, so I'd rather it be more apples to apples in regards to that. With that being said, the price difference between these two SUVs is $26,105. Now that's only considering base price with destination. I included that number in there because the destination is a little bit different. But when you see them in person, yes, the Yukon is definitely bigger, but is it? Because you can tell it sits higher, but as far as the width goes, that's where I kind of think the Acadia might be almost in that same category. If you're not familiar, the Acadia did get redesigned for 2024, and it grew 10.6 inches in length. It actually got a little bit taller too, but one thing you have to understand is this. It's still a mid-size SUV. Now on the front end, the good thing about both of these SUVs is a lot of things do come standard because they are the top of the line, obviously, right? So the Denali is going to give you the premium headlight. Actually, that comes standard all the way down to a elevation. You guys see the fog lights down below are LED as well, and they give you the front parking sensors all the way around. Now you have more painted trim, like that black trimming that goes all the way around the bottom. It's all painted black, painted fender flares, and you have the cameras on the front and on the mirrors, which makes up that 360 camera view. And the same story is here on this side. Both of these SUVs were optional for Super Cruise, and they both have it. So the same things you guys saw on that Acadia are definitely on this side too, especially for $26,000 more in price. Now, here's what we're gonna do next. Let's hop inside the interiors because I wanna show you guys some of the measurements between the seats. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the exact same thing for both SUVs. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the seats and I'm going to put them all the way back like this, and then all the way down. So the seat's all the way back and it's all the way down, okay? Now you guys can kind of see just how much space you have. Both SUVs are going to have a power steering column, which is a really nice feature because it just helps with setting it up through your seat memories. Let's go ahead and check out behind the seat now. Now, what's nice about the Acadia, and this is nothing new obviously, these seats for the second row, they are captain chairs, and they do slide forward and back. So we're going to put the seat all the way back. Now let's measure between the seat back here in here. Now what I have to do is I'm going to sit in the seat really quickly to make sure that I'm comfortable. So for both SUVs, I'm going to make it comfortable for myself, and then I'm gonna measure here, okay? So let's go ahead and do that real quickly. Now I still have the seat all the way back. The space between the front seat and that second row is about 9 inches, a little bit less than 9 inches, but we'll just round off to 9 inches for this comparison here. Now you guys will see here, for someone that's 6 foot 1 inches, I have long legs. I have more than enough space in the second row. Now up front, so you guys can see my legs, right? This is the perfect position for me. The seat is still all the way back and all the way down, right? If I were to go up a little bit, I mean I could, but this is like the most comfortable for me right now. So if someone really tall is sitting behind me, well, I'm not going any further up, sorry. Up next is the Yukon. Now, shockingly, you guys can see this seat is actually closer to the one up front. Now, I do have it all the way back, as you guys can see, right? It's all the way back. Well, it just slid up, so all the way back. And I have this seat all the way back as well. And with that being said, we're about 7.5 inches. We were just at 9 inches with that Acadia. So yes, the Yukon is a little bit smaller if you consider the seats. Now that seat position is exactly the same as the Acadia, okay? But here's something you have to understand. This is a full-size SUV, so with the seat all the way back, for me being 6 foot 1, I actually kind of have to push the seat up just a little bit because I'm actually kind of reaching to push in the gas pedal. So about right there is where I can feel a little bit more comfortable still and still have good position to push the gas pedal. So let's go ahead and do one more measurement. So that pretty much does the trick. And I didn't put it up that much. So like I said, the Yukon is still a full-size SUV, but you can clearly see just how much bigger the Acadia got. Now for all my big booty people out there, this is gonna probably be important to you. Let's see how big the seat cushion is on the lower part, okay? So if I measure from side to side, it's about 20.5 inches wide. For the Yukon, you guys will see, it's about 20 inches wide. And I'm actually doing it from this part of the seat. So the seats are a little bit bigger inside of the Acadia up front. Now, here is where things kind of go downhill for the Acadia. I'm just gonna be honest with you guys. The third row. So I have this seat all the way back. Let's see where my feet are in relation. So this is already, I can tell, a lot smaller. My legs are pretty much right up against that second row captain's chair. Let's go ahead and do the measurement. I'm showing 8 inches between the seat back and the front of the seat cushion down below here. Inside the Yukon, let's go ahead and crawl back here. Now one thing that you're gonna instantly notice when you get inside of a Yukon is the extra headroom that these SUVs have. Now, to no surprise, this is still kind of tight, right? But the position of the seat, the height of the floor is something that you have to consider. So I'm going to do those measurements for you in a second. But for now, you guys will see there's just slightly more room behind the second row captain's chair in the third row, just slightly more. See right there? This is called an 8 1/4. So let's measure the height for that rear door. So if you are climbing in the back, let's call that 44.5 versus 46 3/4 on this side. And we obviously knew that because on the outside you guys can tell just how much taller the Yukon is. Now that's kind of in part to suspension and a little bit of maybe the tire size, because the tire height's gonna be a little bit taller on the Yukon. Now we got to do out back, right? So this is where the Acadia, I think, is going to show you guys how much bigger it grew. Now measuring, I'm not going to go off on the plastic here. I'm just going to go off to where the carpet cuts off at. So 21 inches right there, and if you care, about 24 inches on this plastic trim piece. versus 23.5 on the Acadia. So yes, the Acadia grew a ton behind the third row seat. Now you guys can see that Yukon does have power third row seats, and you can also drop those captain chairs in the second row. That is going to be the same story for the Acadia, but this is another advantage on the Acadia. Check out that deep storage below the floor in the cargo area. See how much deeper it is? Actually, let's go ahead and measure it. So about 9 1/8. That's how deep it is. And on this side, I'm not even gonna measure it because, yeah, that's about 3 inches maybe. So behind the third row under the floor, there's not as much space there. But this is still considerable amount of space behind the third row, even for a full-size SUV. We have a LX600, and I have nowhere near this much space behind the third row seat. Both are going to be 60/40 benches out back, as you can see there. Let's go ahead and measure the height next. For the height, it's 32 3/8, and I did measure from here to the other side. That's 51 inches. 33 1/4 for the height, and 49 1/4 for the width here. It's kind of hard to hold the tape measure and film at the same time, but where you get a little bit more of that width is because of this indentation right there. But if I didn't include that, I think that the Yukon would be slightly bigger. But yes, when you're looking at the overall size, I think that these are very comparable now compared to the outgoing Acadia. Let's talk about the powertrain stuff. Depending on who you are, the Acadia may go downhill for you when it comes down to the powertrains. Let's talk about that for a second. Starting with the Yukon. If you're getting a Denali, this comes standard with that 6.2 liter V8. 420 horsepower and 460 pound-feet of torque. The bad news is you got to burn premium with this engine, and you cannot run regular at all. With that being said, if you're going to pay premium for fuel, there is a diesel option known as the 3-liter inline-6 Duramax. That engine is going to give you class-leading fuel economy, even over a mid-size SUV. Now, with that being said, again, diesel's more money, so we have to at some point do a fuel econ run in the future to see which one makes more sense, right? In the Acadia, the left wants fuel-efficient engines, so this is an inline-4 turbocharged engine. It has better fuel economy and lower emissions, so they say. 328 horsepower and 326 pound-feet of torque. 8-speed transmission, 10-speed transmission. Now, if you're looking at a lesser Yukon to compare with pricing on an Acadia, those would come with the 5.3 liter V8, which has 355 horsepower and 383 pound-feet of torque, 10-speed transmission. So that one is closely matched with the Acadia. So in the future, be sure to subscribe to the channel. As I said, as more SUVs make their way to the dealership, I'll do a drive comparing maybe that 5.3 with this 2.5 liter. Finishing up on the exteriors, optional 22-inch wheels on both sides, 6 lug. I love the design on both. You can get power deployable running boards with this Yukon. It has the fixed ones here. You don't really need running boards on this Acadia. They have the smart key system on the front and rear doors on both sides. Notice the painted mirror caps, and they both have the turn signals and cameras. Out back, you have those parking sensors on the sides. This does have air suspension too, independent suspension on the Acadia. And then just check out the rear design. I think they've done a great job on both sides of the house here. I do like that bright painted black and that like polished look on that trim piece down below. Quad exhaust on both sides. Let's see how comfortable the seats are for both SUVs, starting with the Acadia. Here's a quick peek at the door. Seat memories. You only have auto up and down for the driver's side, but auto down for everything else. Power folding mirrors, and they're heated on this trim level. And then check out the overall design. This wood trim piece, you can feel how porous it is. And the seats are perforated so they breathe a lot better, and more of that diamond stitching there. And as I mentioned earlier, power steering column. So let's go ahead and turn it on. Now, you do have ventilated and heated seats. I'm gonna go ahead and turn those on. Also heated steering wheel. This steering wheel is really thick too. I want you guys to keep that in mind when I go back over to that Yukon. I feel as though with the height of the roof, where the seat position is, this feels really comfortable. Actually, I'm gonna lift the seat up just a little bit. I just wanna see how it feels. You do sit lower inside the Acadia, 100%. Now you do have a screen here, 11-inch, and then you have a 15-inch screen on this side for the infotainment. I like how they still give you the climate control outside of the screen. You guys can see too, you have this cover, cup holders right here, wireless charger, and you have 2 USBs down below. Both SUVs are gonna have that panoramic sunroof. And I'm gonna pause for a second because I wanna see how much cooler the seats are gonna get, because I wanna compare that. But you guys can see right there, heads-up display. These seats have really good bolstering on the sides of them. And they're pretty soft too. I think these are probably on the softer side for a GM product. So these ventilated seats have like a vacuum effect, so it kind of pulls the air in. They're gonna probably operate the same because I believe the Yukon is the same, so we don't have to wait any longer. Those seats are gonna work good once the cabin cools down. And as far as the Yukon goes, that door is a lot bigger. Oh my goodness. And I do like what they've done. You guys see some of the stitching? They have more white stitching in that Acadia, but this wood trim piece is super nice. You have leather wrap on the dash on both sides. And I didn't mention this, but on both SUVs, you're gonna have a 12-way seat because the lumbar goes up and down too, okay? Here's some of the controls. The heads-up display screen is a lot bigger. And the first thing you notice getting inside of the Yukon, I'm gonna put the seat up just a little bit, is the command that you have on the road. Like, you sit so much higher, so it seems like you can see more out of the front glass. Now let's go ahead and start it up. Now, instantly, I'm gonna push the lumbar all the way out for a second. The first thing I notice sitting inside of the Yukon is how stiff the seats are. The seats in that Acadia are just a hair, sorry about that. But yeah, the seats in the Acadia are just a hair softer. Not a lot softer, but just a little bit softer in comparison. But same story, you still have great bolstering on the sides of the seats right there. The seats just seem a little bit stiffer. I instantly noticed that getting in here. Now I do have the ventilated seats on, and they are working well, but you have this screen. I think this is a 12-inch screen, and then this is like a 10.1-inch screen. So yes, because this is a more outdated Yukon, it is gonna have the smaller screen on this side. I almost forgot to mention, the Acadia steering wheel is a little bit thicker compared to the Yukon. All in all, I still like the layout of this. You have a wireless charger there. I like the covers that they give you. You have your cup holders there hidden. You have a 12-volt plug there. You have 2 USBs. And I think that most people are gonna be more at home inside of this Yukon because of the size. Like, I like the larger SUVs. My wife likes the larger SUVs. Now here is that gear selector. It's pretty straightforward. If you push for neutral, you pull out for the drive. You have your gear limiter down there, and then you push for park. On the Acadia, it's slightly different. If you pull it towards you, that puts it in neutral. If you push this here, that's the park. And if you pull it towards you, push up, that's reverse. And you pull it towards you and push it down, that's for drive. But on this side of the house, you're gonna have less seating control. So let's talk about that for a second. You will see that you cannot push the seat up and down for the front and rear. So you just have this control, so this kind of pushes it up. But you still have the lumbar that goes up and down, in and out. And of course your seat back is powered too. On the Yukon, you don't lose any seat memory. So you can push the back of the seat cushion up and the front of the seat cushion up. And as I said too, panoramic sunroof on both sides. This one does have a lot of like extras. I don't think that you can get this option for that Acadia, at least not right now. In the rear though, Outboard heated seats on both sides. You have the single climate control. You do have 2 Type-C USBs and HDMIs for those screens, and a 120 volt plug. That's gonna be the exact same for the Acadia. Now, I am shocked that they don't have the curtains for that second row here. And it's the same story for the Acadia. No curtains out back. But same controls as I mentioned, 120 volt plug right here. And then you have a little bit of storage down below there. Outboard heated seats, single climate control. Let's check out the numbers on the door. As far as the gross vehicle weight rating goes, it's going to be 6,173 pounds. And then payload is going to be 1,406 pounds compared to the Yukon's 7,500 pound gross vehicle weight rating and 1,438 pounds of payload, which is about the same as that Acadia. And you guys can see there, this can tow up to 8,000 pounds. That Acadia is up to 5,000 pounds, give or take. Now, with that being said, you guys can pretty much see that the size difference is a lot closer than it has ever been. And as we mentioned earlier in this video, with the amount that you're paying for vehicles today and the interest rates that you have to pay if you plan on financing, the Acadia does make more sense for most families now. If you don't really need a full-size SUV, if you're not planning on towing anything heavy, the Acadia might be the better buy. But I hope this video was helpful. I really was shocked at how much bigger the Acadia was. So I really wanted to do this comparison because I just wanted to show them side by side to see what 10.6 inches gives you compared to a Yukon in terms of the length. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. In the future, I will try to do a comparison for fuel economy to show you guys how much it would cost you to run that Yukon versus the Acadia.